I, Angela, have goals. And then my husband, Paul, has goals. And these are two separate, and they don't always align. I lost my truth, and in losing my truth, I lost my identity. I was not required to run my business. So a lot of what I was doing was like, I was not the cool kid. And maybe it's a trauma response, but like, I'll prove them. I'll
Oh,
show them.
100%. How much money is enough money? How much do you continue to work yourself to the bone to try and be able to have more money, have more wealth, and essentially trying to get to the feeling that you really want at the end of the day? But is actually you working so hard, doing so much, trying to earn more money, the right thing to do? This is a question that I really want to be able to dive into, and I'm so happy to be sharing with you Angela Lauria, a fantastic friend of mine, a woman I highly respect and admire, and we really get straight into the point to what is it that we should really be doing as entrepreneurs? How do we live our best lives? And how do we walk that line between us working too hard or working for something that isn't actually the right thing, and being able to actually create a fantastic lives for ourselves, for our families, for our community, and for our world? And the reason why I actually specifically wanted to bring Angela on and for us to be able to have this conversation is I'm actually writing a number of essays that goes deep into what the topic is and many of the things that we touch in today's episode together. But why Angela? And it's because she had a $20 million a year business, and she consciously, purposely created and turned it into a $6 million a year business. Now, most people think you went from 20 million to 6 million. That's not a good thing. Well, however, she's going to break that paradigm, and she's going to show you why she did that and why she was able to keep the exact same amount of profit that she was taking and being able to live such an amazing life in abundance. So I literally have notes here because after this recording, I actually went for a walk, had to give myself some space, came back, and then wanted to record this intro to now be able to share this with you. So I highly recommend that you stick with us all the way through into this, and I'm really looking forward to what you're going to be able to take out of it. Angela Lauria, you are one of my most favorite human beings in this entire world. I'm not going to have too much foreplay because I want to get straight into this one right now, because I had to kind of like get you to stop talking so I could hit record for us to be able to dive into it. Everything that is very salient to me right now with my life and what I'm working through, and essentially what I'm figuring out for myself, and then in hopes wanting to lay out to help others go through or at least avoid my mistakes, you came to mind really, really clearly and strongly over the last couple of weeks. And I was just like, all right, we have to do this recording right now, because when it comes to having enough in our life, and especially when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, and the, dare I say, culture today is so much of the grow, 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 but no one's ever, or I don't see, and this is something I'm putting upon myself, is very much the case of, why do I want to grow, and what is growth? And so like, what's driving what it is that I'm doing, and is actually what I'm doing, is growth going to get me the thing that I want at the end of the day anyway? And so I think there's a lot of unasked questions, and you are an absolute beautiful role model as someone that I look up to and respect. And especially when it comes to, and I'll let you kind of like peel your story back, when it comes to, you had this ginormous business and you consciously and very smartly brought it down to a smaller business, but it was actually a so much better business as well. And I think if I said that to the context of a lot of people, they would say, you downsized your business? Why? Like, it sounds like almost like that's a bad thing. Like, oh, like what went wrong? So Angela, thank you so much for being here. I'd love for you to just dive in and kind of like share why you went from something big to something smaller.
Yes. Well, despite the fact that we do have connections outside of the business world, shout out to Ibu Robin Lim. The way I found you was through Taki Moore and the Black Belt community. And I have the distinct honor and privilege of being the first, maybe the only, but at the very least, the first, maybe I'm a trendsetter person to go to Taki with the goal of shrinking my business. And as I was growing my business with the goal of a $100 million exit, equity event exit, but SPAC or a private equity purchase or something like that, I wouldn't have joined a more personal branding or coaching oriented business. Like the consultants that I was working with were much more connected to like the New York finance world. And so when I came to him, I'm like, I want to know how to run a smaller business. And he's like, I don't know if I can help you. Maybe call James Schramko. So he almost didn't let me in. He made me hire James first. But the reason why that was my goal, well, it wasn't totally clear in my head yet. But I'll tell you the sad story, because things manifest physically, as you know, is I lost my voice. And I do not mean that metaphysically. I had laryngitis for a year.
Wow.
Super painful when I look at old videos from that year, because I can hear it in my voice and it's like nails on a chalkboard still, PTSD. I knew, because I know enough about the woo, and I had done all the things. I had 36 doctors. I had done holistic surgeries, everything in between. I went to the Met Opera, the New York Opera Company's ENT to fix my voice. Like, it's also Adele's doctor. I got the same surgery that Adele got. Like, I literally did every single thing you could do. Changed my diet, did all the vitamins, took all the hormone tests, had multiple surgeries on different parts of my body to try and address it. So many things, and nothing I did worked.
I want to jump in and say thank you for listening and supporting the show, as at the moment we don't run any ads on the show. And if you're getting value, if you're loving the show, then I invite you right now to share this episode. Share this directly to a friend or share it on your socials. And when you do share it on social, please tag me so I can personally say thank you to you. My social handle is @Chris Dufey. That's Chris Dufey, as it means a huge deal to me, as this show is about us coming together as a community to help each other grow, as I really do believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. So take a screenshot, grab the link and share it with a friend that you think will get value out of this together. It will put a huge smile on my face, and I very much appreciate it.
I also did a lot of spiritual retreats and releases and plant medicine and like all the things. Nothing I did worked. And so I knew there was a misalignment. Yeah. I knew that these symptoms were triggered by the grow. There were a whole bunch of other things happening, like a divorce and other personal things that were not great, but it was my anchor. Like, my business was the one fucking thing that was working. My relationship was a disaster. Parenting was really hard. My country's going to hell in the handbasket. Like, everything was falling apart. My business, that wasn't the problem. I had plenty of leads. I had plenty of clients. I had plenty of revenue. I had an amazing team. I also was not required for the day-to-day of my business. I was going to say I wasn't working that hard. I worked 80 hours a week, but I was not required to run my business. So a lot of what I was doing was like traveling and doing masterminds and connecting and meeting with finance people and meeting with lawyers and talking about mergers and buying companies. I bought a couple companies. I bought Mike Koenig's company. Like, I was like on an acquisition spree. So I had a lot of guidance on how to grow and scale. Certainly no one, all those people could have profited from me selling my company for $100 million. No one was like, what you should really think about doing is scale back to a business like Taki Moore teaches people. Like, you could have 3 employees and make $5 million. That was no one's list. Yeah. And maybe it was there and I just didn't see it because cognitive bias, but the doctors wanted me to get better. The metaphysicians, the spiritual healers. Oh, wait, let me tell you how crazy this is. It included Marianne Williamson living with me. I literally fucking manifested. We were not friends. I did not know her. I mean, I knew her work, and she ended up spontaneously moving in with me for 6 months. This was when I was like, oh my God, God is fucking hitting me over the head with a 2x4 at this point. When Marianne Williamson moves in out of the blue, like God is trying to tell you something. And so Taki asked me, seems like an easy question, some version of what do you want? And I very clearly, articulately, and investably gave him my business plan of everything I wanted. I want to get to $100,000. Here's how we're going to get to 40. We did 28 this year. Here are the steps. And he's like, no, ask again. What do you want? I'm like, dude, I just told you, you need to see a spreadsheet. Let me give you the Google Doc. Like, what? Why is this man speaking Aramaic? Is the Australian accent? Like, what is happening here? I gave you the lead cost. I need to get my lead cost down to $10. It's at 15 because then it'll look better on the due diligence. Is that the answer? Lead cost? It literally did not it took me a year to understand the question. What do you want? It seems like that should be a little easier to answer. So I'll get to the end and then you can probe me on the way there. But I took my company from 20 million a year to 6 million a year. Yay me. I took my team from 40 to 7. But my profit is identical. We were making 3 million in profit before, and I take a salary of like 200K. So I still have a salary of 200K.
Yeah.
I still have $3 million in profit. But what I don't have, because you did use a word like better or awesome or whatever, what I don't have is a sellable asset in the way that I did. So there's something but I'm not building a 10x brand that could be sold to a major publisher. Like I had some strategic acquisitions that I killed in the process. So like better is only better in relationship to what do you want?
Really quickly, I love that you're joining us on the podcast. And if you haven't yet, I have a YouTube channel, which is our main hub. This is where we have all the episodes so you can watch the conversations and join each episode to get all of the best content, the best insights. So click over to YouTube, go to the Christopher Dufey channel, as I would love for you to be able to join us there. Exactly right. I love that you join those dots, because for me, and it's funny because especially in the circles that you and I are in, this conversation comes up a lot, especially since, do you know what I mean? I sold the company a few months ago, and it was like, I made that conscious decision to build an asset, and there's pros and cons to everything. And so it was very much taking that. And it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had the discussion with James Tremco, because he did the opposite. Do you know what I mean? Like he flipped the other way, and he was like, no, I'm going to go the personal brand route. And I'm like, okay, amazing. And I think this is like the onion that I want to continue to peel here, because the question, what do I want, is an extremely, if I had to label it, a difficult question to answer, because there is so much going on. And what I find interesting, Angela, from what you just said before, is like, you said something is like, it took you a year to kind of like really find that out and get there. And I appreciate you sharing that, because for me, something that I want to have as a trait, as a kind of like a characteristic of myself, is being able to at least lower my ability of self-deception. Do you mean like, how do I stop deceiving myself, and to be able to open up and kind of like have a bigger, broader view of the world? And I think one thing I want to touch to when it comes to you making that decision, Angela, there's like Renee Girard's, do you know what I mean, kind of like work on mimesis. And so like, all right, like I'm essentially, I'm going to be mimicking other people, especially they're going to be in my environment. And when we're in the environment, these business masterminds and get-togethers and all of this stuff, and everyone's like, I want more, I want more.
Not even the environment, my email inbox. Like the environment of my email inbox is like sufficient to be confusing.
So,
And then I'm hearing lower your lead cost. And then I see, here's how I lowered my lead cost. And then it's a Tuesday and I start the day with journaling and meditation, which I do, and it's easy. And I'm like, what do I want? And then by 9:35, I'm on a call with a guy who's going to tell me how to lower my lead cost. Are those because I have to live on Tuesday. Like I tell you, it took me a year, but it wasn't a year of sitting alone in a room. I still checked my email for a year. I still I'm going towards this question. What do I want? And then I'm on a call with a direct response marketing agency. And they're asking me questions. What do you want? I'm like, lower lead cost. And now I'm living in the space of lower lead cost, which is attached to the vision of exit my company for $100 million in 3 years.
Okay. So Angela, what happened for you to have the penny drop for you to go, I'm going to go from 20 to 6?
Yeah. Grief. So the voice was directly connected. And part of this for me was journaling and meditation, like to get there, and therapy, like literal, like talk therapy with a therapist, coaching with a coach, all the things. I did all the things, you name it. But my voice and losing my voice was about my identity and my truth. I lost my truth, and in losing my truth, I lost my identity.
So if we kind of went down the woo route, it's like, were you not speaking your truth? So therefore that's how it kind of manifests through.
And look, that's true. And I had vocal polyps, which, like there are real, like science is real. Your body is real. Vocal polyps are real. Surgery is real. But also, why did it show up there and not somewhere else? It could have been I don't know, tennis elbow. Like, why did it show up there? And maybe it's a total coincidence and it's just the meaning I made out of it, but the meaning I made out of it has made my life better anyway. So even if it's not woo, like works for me in terms of identifying and pointing me to the thing. So, Freud said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. And, sometimes vocal polyps are just vocal polyps. And maybe that's what these were. But for me, I was able to use those messages to get some meaning out of it, to understand where the incongruity was. And so
can I take that, because you're going exactly where I want to go. How do you help someone then, the listener right now, how do you help them to lower their self-deception so that they can answer the question, what do I want?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think you do. I don't know. I remember I had some friends who would say things like, maybe you don't want this business. Like I had maybe, I don't know, healers that I worked with or something. Like, I'm sure people said that to me.
Yeah.
But I couldn't hear it until I could hear it.
Yeah.
How could you do it sooner? I don't know. That is definitely not my area of expertise, but I think I know how I could have taken longer to get there.
Yeah. Okay. What's the not to do list?
Which is not listening to those signs. Like, I think, whatever in coaching, we'll call this getting stuck in victim mentality, but like I have bad vocal genes. Like there are people, I have so many questions about Tony Robbins. I can't do any of because what his voice sounded like is what mine sounded like. And I could have kept going. And I'm like, dude, what does that fucking mean? And there's another one, Grant Cardone. I'm like, dude, but maybe it means nothing. Maybe it means they have vocal polyps because they talk a lot. And if they don't want to make it mean anything, they should go run their $100 million businesses, buy a condo complex in Arizona. Like, what am I going to tell you? Like, if it's working for you, dude, you do you. I don't know what to tell you.
No, I love that you say that. I really do love that you say that.
I hear those things. Like I hear Tony's voice and I'm like, oh.
That's really interesting.
Maybe he feels bliss. And I could have lived with my voice the way it was for sure. I had a vocal coach in addition to all the other things that I had. Like I could have worked with it. I could have hired speakers. There's a way to work with it. I could have kept going.
Yeah.
I just chose to listen to it. And that was the hardest thing ever, because choosing to listen to it meant not having an answer.
Mm.
And that period of not having an answer, and this is what I really want to talk about, because I don't think anyone talks about this and no one told me. Still fucking clients, still had employees. So I don't have an answer. My identity is deconstructing around me. The vivid vision I had painted, I had people living under and making decisions and getting mortgages. So I have like 6 employees getting mortgages based on my vision, which is crumbling around me. And I've got 200 clients, and I have to show up and coach. And when I show up and coach, I have to switch into that other vivid vision. And then when I'm back to just me for 5 minutes, I'm falling apart because I'm like, that's not who I am. It's out of integrity. And there are other symptoms. I had like IBS stuff going on. I had like, but then I don't know, I guess we have a friend who just had a heart attack to get his way out of that. But short of having a heart attack, like I had to keep showing up. I mean, many times, like this was happening during COVID. I'm like, if only I got COVID really bad and had to go on a ventilator, that would be amazing. Literally prayed for the ventilator. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I would get in my car and I would be like, if I drive it off the bridge, this would be amazing, because then I wouldn't have to explain anything. And so I didn't know what I was explaining. Did I want to get rid of the 40 employees? Did I want to get rid of those sales goals? Did I want to drop our direct response approach? Did I want to stop making videos every day with my fucked up voice? Like, you have to live under the old vision until you have a new vision, and you can't make the new vision come faster until you deconstruct the identity, which gets us back to, what do you want? What's the purpose of doing this? So my purpose of doing this was, I want to sell my company for $100 million. Great. Why? Answer: because I can.
Hola, I want to say a big thank you, muchas gracias, for listening to the show. Now, really quickly, this show is growing and it's all thanks to the ratings and reviews. So really quickly, I want to ask, if you have not left a review for the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else that you listen, take the 30 seconds, please click on over, leave a review, as I really want to hear from you. And I want to know what is the best thing so I can cover in future episodes. What guests to bring in, what questions can I answer for you? What is it that you're getting out of being a part of this show as well? And I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this show's success. Thank you so much for clicking over, leaving a review. Now let's get back to the episode. So
what do I get at the end? Okay. Financial
Yeah.
freedom. Oh, fuck. I already have $10 million in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. And that's so, I don't think I said this before we hit record. So for me, this was extremely salient for me, because I was like, oh, we have 200% financial freedom. And so I have 200% passive income from what it cost me to live. Like, I don't have to work for money anymore. Then why am I doing things that I'm doing right now? Like, and it's like,
You sell your company for $100 million so you could put the money in the bank. Oh, it all starts falling apart.
It does. It becomes very just misty, where you can't palpate it, you can't grab it. And then this is the interesting part, where I also then come back to the point, like, creators create, and I'm like, I'm so driven and wanting, like, I want to learn, I want to share, I want to create, like, and it's interesting now, because for me, the energy of where it's now coming out of is in such a better place. It feels so goddamn good from where it's coming from as well. But I'm not going to lie, there are still been things where I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? Like, what I'm doing right now really is just for more money, and I'm not loving it. And it was, I think it's habit and identity, because you brought that up, and I had to write that down. And I was like, I've got to change my identity. I've got to let go of those things where I'm so used to being busy. I'm so used to like working so much.
Yeah. And then work becomes the identity, scaling becomes the identity, leading a team becomes the identity, growing becomes the identity. And that's all fine. None of that is bad. I am all for it. But
Mm,
can I tell you about a little transformational moment I had?
please.
My college roommate lives in the UK. She lives in London. She grew up in London, or she grew up in the UK until she was like 13, came to the US, went to high school and college in the US. She was my college roommate. And then after law school, she went back to the UK. So she has friends from high school from the US, from college. I'm the college friend, from law school. And she's got like one best friend from high school,
Yeah.
Anastasia. I'm the college best friend. Nancy is her law school best friend. And then her first job, which was at Latham and Watkins. Erica's her best friend from Latham and Watkins, and then her best friend from Weil Gotshal. And so each of her law firms, and she was general counsel at GE, and Johnny is her best friend from GE. And for her 50th birthday, she's a very successful lawyer for Blackstone Group. She's their general counsel for a bunch of their portfolio companies. And so she incredibly, ridiculously, generously got us all a private jet and a villa in Tuscany. All you had to do is get yourself to London, and we flew in a private jet. We went to Tuscany. Everything was top of the line. Like, we had our custom kit. She had like had everything embroidered for us. We had custom water bottles, custom, like everything had logos. It was amazing, like ridiculously amazing. And it was her whole life, at least from high school. Victoria is her friend from elementary school. She didn't get the invite, but it was her best friend from each point in her life. I've been there for most of it. I met Anastasia when we were in college, and every single person was there. And there was a memory book and a life-size cardboard cutout of Morrissey, who's her favorite singer, and disco parties and everything you could possibly imagine. And Monica makes a good living. I mean, she's a corporate lawyer, but she's not an entrepreneur. She doesn't have upside in the way that we have upside. I'm certainly, there's no poverty status there, but it's a job. She has a job. She has a job. She pays taxes. She's got a regular job. So I looked around at what she had built, and all of her friends had vastly different lives. One of her friends is an assistant DA in San Francisco. Another friend is a corporate lawyer from New Zealand. Another friend does the interior decorating for William and Kate. Like totally different. Another guy's a hairdresser. Like totally different lifestyles. And they all love Monica, like as much as I love Monica. And there's a community that comes around her that was like, her birthday was like Christmas. It was like a family Christmas. I know these people, we've done all the things in her life. She just adds one on every time. And we just they're all from all over the world, Germany, Africa, like it's like this amazing collection of totally different, brilliant, amazing people. I got a whole bunch of friends that are in black belt. All of my friends are clients or entrepreneurs from the online marketing world.
Yeah.
Tell me about my high school friend. I have Monica, because Monica did that work.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about my grad school friend. Tell me about my best friend from my PhD in Switzerland. All I know is she was a dominatrix and her name was Mistress Mercy, but I can't remember her real name. I could probably find some porn of hers. Like, PhD in philosophy, all the dominatrixes go to school. They're brilliant. Anyway, but like I got nothing. And I looked around and I'm like, what am I building? Like, what's my, like at some point, so I sell it for $100 million. It's great. Now there's $100 million in the bank and my kids and grandkids are taken care of, which my kid is already taken care of, but now I'm worried about his grandkids, I guess. I'm not sure. So the money's there. I've gotten a divorce. Maybe I have another partner. I guess we spend a weekend on a super yacht with strangers. Can they be 20-year-old strangers from Instagram? And I looked at what she built. Well, I was building a business, and she's an amazing career, but she's really prioritized work-life balance. It was part of why she left the big white shoe law firms to be an in-house lawyer. And I'm like, oh, I want that. I want that. I want community. I want people that would fly from Africa and Germany and San Francisco to London. And yes, the private jet was a good incentive, but I want people that I would want to pay for a private jet to Tuscany and a villa in Tuscany for. And I don't know who I would invite. I would invite clients and I charge them 10K.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Totally with you.
And I just had this total epiphany about relationships. And I went back to that tacky question, what do you want? And I was like, I want meaningful relationships. Yes, I want financial freedom. I'm not that crazy. I'm not gonna like take a job at Starbucks or something, but I want meaningful relationships.
I love that.
I don't know what the $100 million gets me, a super yacht. I'm probably not even a super yacht, a large yacht, which are nice. One of Monica's friends has a yacht. I've been on it in the Bahamas. It's lovely. So, but I want those relationships, and I have not spent the last 20 years cultivating them the way Monica has. I've spent the last 20 years building a business. And yes, this is when I apologized to my ex-husband and begged him to take me back right around then. So that all worked out. We are back together. That's the moral of the story. Because I realized that he 100% stood in the way of my $100 million dream. It was like dragging a fucking ball and chain.
Yeah.
Because his priority and his vision was for our relationship first. And yes, let's be able to take a nice trip to Tuscany with or without your friend paying for it.
Yeah.
Right. But my priority is $100 million. And I don't know why, except I did the vision board. And then I built systems and people and processes that are so fucking elegant. And I was like, how can we let those processes go to waste? They could be used to make money.
I want to jump in and say thank you for listening and supporting the show, as at the moment we don't run any ads on the show. And if you're getting value, if you're loving the show, then I invite you right now to share this episode. Share this directly to a friend or share it on your socials. And when you do share it on social, please tag me so I can personally say thank you to you. My social handle is @Chris Dufey. That's Chris Dufey, as it means a huge deal to me, as this show is about us coming together as a community to help each other grow, as I really do believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. So take a screenshot, grab the link and share it with a friend that you think could get value out of this together. It will put a huge smile on my face and I very much appreciate it. Can I say something? This is really interesting. It was 2 nights ago. Laura and my wife and I, we had a date night, and our date night was literally like eating in the back of the car at the beach, just like sitting there, just chilling out, enjoying a couple of hours together while doing the nannies with the girls. And it was, we've our relationship now, we've been married for a bit over 11 years, is like by far, we went through some stuff recently and we actually said we'll do a podcast and stuff and like publicly happily talk about all of it and stuff like that. But having gone through this really hard, rough period, now being like, this relationship's 100 times better than I ever thought. There was an element where her and I, we realized we were both now different people and we were coming together again. Like it feels like a completely fresh second life.
That's how
together.
I feel. Yeah, that's how I feel with my husband now.
And I had this thought come up and I expressed this to Lauren and go, I felt like previously that you were an anchor and you were slowing me down with these things that I wanted to achieve and succeed at. And I felt like the biggest prick in the world when that came up, and I had to share with the feeling. And I was just like, oh, I'm an absolute prick. Do you know what I mean? Like, but now feeling like we're both like moving together in the same, and it's kind of like this virtuous cycle going upwards. I just find that this is why I wanted to talk to you, Angela, because I don't hear these discussions going around this business world. And what's the point of us scaling and growing? Like, growing for the sake of growing is cancerous at the end of the day. And is it actually getting us to the things like, I will meditate on my death and be like, when I'm on my deathbed, what are the things that I'm going to want to remember and experience? And what are the things I don't want to regret as well? And I think that's a beautiful part. I've got, you know
Do
what?
you know the story about the Mexican fisherman?
Yeah, the Mexican
Yeah.
fisherman. Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a great story because it's like, yeah, we can turn that into a franchise and we can sell your fish all over the world so that you could then retire to sit here and fish.
So
Maybe I'll just keep fishing. Like rather than do 20 years of hard work commercializing my shit, I'll just enjoy the life I have.
why do you think we find it difficult to stay as the Mexican fisherman? Why do you think it's difficult for us to be like, yeah, you know what? I only need, I sound like such a fucking privileged prick right now. I only need 300 grand a year, do you know what I mean, to live. And I could do that with 4 hours work a week, if I could be perfectly honest. Do you know what I mean? Like, what, can you help me unpack
I
that?
think there's a couple things. One is, and this one messed me up for a long time. One is capitalism, which I'm obviously in favor of, right? I'm like scaled down from 100 million to 6. Like I'm not anti-capitalist here, but capitalism works because of growth. And when I did work for corporations writing books, every quarter you had to show growth. And that's actually good because more people get born every year, although that's changing, but thank you, climate change, but more people. So we need more money. So we need more food. So we need more things. And so productivity, which it also has some Bible shenanigans with Calvinism, but productivity and capitalism are tied and they're just sort of in the water. Like, why would you want to shrink or why would you want to stagnate? Those don't even sound good. They're in the language. They're quarterly earning statements. I don't know. I just hear that on the radio. Like, I don't even know what it's just like in the ether. And we don't question a lot of things that are just in the ether. Like love is also in the ether and we don't question that's good. I'm not saying it's bad. Capitalism is in the ether. And I just don't think we're questioning how it applies to me. How I want to play with that system. I would like to play with that system at this level.
Yes.
But there's a judgment that like there's the bet, like I want to be the valedictorian or ducks in my class. I want to be the #1 basketball player. Like I want to be #1, which means I guess Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Like I'm trying to get to some place, and that is how capitalism works. Which is fine. We can look at that and say, that's how capitalism works. I'm going to stop right here. I would like to play, like I did professional theater. So I loved theater growing up, super fun. I loved theater in college, got a college scholarship, graduated from college, got a professional job. When I was getting paid, I had to do shows I didn't want to do because it was my job. It was just whatever the theater was doing, I had to do. I was like, I hate this shit. I don't want to do a show I don't want to do. Well, then it's not your job. It's a hobby. So I still do shows and I still go see theater, but I stopped playing the theater game, which maybe isn't capitalism, but it's still that growth. I dropped the goal of I want to be a director on Broadway, which was a goal at one point. And I went with like, I'd like to participate in community theater. Like I will stop here.
Okay. So, I've got a stack of these books where they give them away as gifts. This was a concept that Derek Sivers wrote in.
Oh, yes. Huge fan. Yep.
So good. I've got a stack of.
Funny, I found a blog post I wrote about Derek yesterday. I was like cleaning up my blog and I wrote this whole blog post about him. And I was like, I got to go read his newest stuff.
It's really,
I
have such a bro crush on
him.
He
figured it out. I read all that back then and I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, but I loved it. I was like, this is great. Doesn't apply to me. I'm getting my business to 100 million.
It was profound because for me, I came up with the concept of there's a money-making machine and there's a meaning-making machine, and they both don't have to be the same thing. So for me, my meaning-making machine is having these discussions, do you know what I mean? Writing, creating, talking about the things I want to talk about. Am I monetizing this? No, not at all. And I kind of like have consciously separated those two, and my money-making machines, the partnering, like doing that stuff with them. And so my decision recently was, with the money making machine, I'm consciously choosing a cap. There is assets that can obviously, do you mean having equity in businesses and stuff like that? That's great, but there is effectively a cap as well. Where I'm like, I'm totally happy with just that being the money that I know I'm going to be earning for the work that I'm going to put in, and I can be very structured with the container around it as well. And then there's also the part of me where it's like, that's wrong, Chris. Do you know what I mean? Or I'll have discussions with other people and be like, oh, maybe I should double the income. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, the part that messed me up that I didn't quite get to was like, if I can make more money, I should, even if I don't want to give it to my kids, I should, and then I should take that money and start a foundation, start a charity, start it. Like I should, because not everybody has the ability to make money like I do.
I totally agree, because I'll say it for us. We have a great skill set that is able to create income. And so therefore, altruistically, is it a moral prerogative for me to be able to use that skill set to generate money to then be able to put in the most effective altruistic actions?
Yeah. That was a big one. And that's also part of the identity deconstruction. So, and then I'll give you my second reason why I think we get stuck in this loop. Please. For me, but I think you might have a little of this too. So for me, some of it has to do with growing up being overweight, growing up being a woman, growing up being autistic. And I was not the cool kid. And maybe it's a trauma response, but like, I'll prove them. I'll show them.
Oh shit. Yes. Angela. I was this super fat, overweight kid. I always felt out of place. I've had suicidal ideation come in and out. It was a couple of weeks ago and I was having it. Do you know what I mean? And I was just
I know what you mean.
What the fuck? And yeah, there is
a good elixir for that. Like I might be fat, but I'm making more money than you, which I've always been making more money than everyone. Like I might be a woman, but I make more money than almost every guy in this space. Like I might be autistic, but like, I'll show you, I'll fucking change the whole publishing industry and there'll be 1,000 copycats of my business. Like, right. So, but like, what do you get from, I'll show you? I'm like, maybe I just showed them. Maybe who fucking cares? Who am I showing? Who is them?
Yeah.
Like I'll show you runs out of steam if you process the trauma, I think. Which is maybe unfortunate. I don't know.
I think it's a great point, because again, I think you're pointing to something where us as the audience listening right now have to think about what is the motivation behind what I'm doing. Like, I think it's a Buddha quote where it's like, it's not the outcome of an action that determines if it's a success, it's the motivation behind it. And I'm always like, oh, that's really good. What is my motivation?
You can't get to the why. Like the question Taki asked me, what do you want? You can't get to that without understanding the motivation. Because if what I want is to prove that a fat girl can be successful, then that's what I want. That is my life's calling. That's what I'm doing. Do I want to own that? But if I just don't look at it and I look at my vision, my like vivid vision of $100 million exit, like that's a prettier picture for me to look at. What do you want? I got to get my lead cost down to $10. Because I don't want to look at that trauma. I don't want to look at the identity. Who do I want to be? Like, I don't want to look at how come Monica has friends and I don't. So I would just be busy when Monica was getting her friends together. You know, so.
Is what you're pointing to there, Angela, it's easy, it's an easy problem for us to solve, to make more money, and it feels better, and it's a harder, deeper, more emotionally painful, there's suffering involved to actually kind of like, what's in here? Like, what actually is it that I want? What are the things that have been maybe motivating me that aren't healthy motivators at the end of the day as well? How do I optimize for peace? That's a question I've been asking myself recently as well.
Yeah. For me, one of the things was like, Angela, have goals. And then my husband, Paul, has goals. And these are two separate and they don't always align.
Mm.
Like one of his major goals is to really enjoy a holiday weekend and unplug from work.
Mm.
One of my goals is hit $100 million. Like these
Yeah.
things just aren't like they don't, he can't have his goals if I get my goals. So we can wrestle, we could trade on and off, we could compromise, we could balance them, or there's this new goal, right? And the new goal is our goal. It's the goal he doesn't necessarily want. I don't necessarily want. It's this goal we both want.
Yes.
Well, now I have to recreate my identity. I can't be the person who gave up her $100 million goal to get that, because then my identity is just bitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who is the person who wants this thing? Like for us, we both have a son. We want to give our sons $5 million. We want to spend half of our time traveling. We both want to work about 20 hours a week until we're 60. And most importantly, we want to win pub trivia in every country in the world, ideally with friends. So you could be on Team Bali. You and Lauren are invited. So we have goals that are us. They're not my goal. My brain would not come up with these goals, and neither would his. Like his biggest dream was working for the Ministry of Defense in the UK. It was wild. He was going to make 30,000 pounds a year. I mean, who makes that much? Like that was his, I mean, he grew up on, it's not food stamps, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like he grew up very, 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 very poor. Government subsidized housing, government cheese, all the things. So imagining a stable job and a pension and a 30,000 pound a year job, like that was his big, wild goal that he achieved. I grew up with an entrepreneur dad who sold his business for $5 million. And I was like, fuck that asshole. I'm going to sell mine for 100 million. Motherfucker. I'll show you. And so like the new goal is a new person that doesn't have a whole lot of energy in showing my father any, I don't know, I like to show my father a pizza. I got nothing. I had to take all that juice out.
Yeah.
And there is a grief. It does not sound like it, because like, girl, why are you grieving this anger? But the anger birthed the person I was, who I was happy to be.
Mm.
So if you give up that anger, I'm a person who's excited about pub trivia.
Mm.
Like, who's that girl?
Mm.
I know who she is now. I like her.
Mm.
But I didn't know who that girl was. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what that even meant. They weren't my goals. Taki's question, what do you want? The answer is I want to have a shared goal with my husband and a partnership with somebody where we have a shared goal, but I don't have that language. That's why it sounded like Aramaic.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation so much. This sucks that I have to wrap this up.
I do want to shout out. Do you know Ryan Lee?
No.
Ryan Lee, great dude, entrepreneur. You'll know a bunch of his products, but he's amazing. And you could definitely find him. I think it's ryanlee.tv, maybe. The meaning making and the money making conversation. I actually had that with Ryan Lee recently at a wedding. And he's the first person that I've talked to who is actually has thought about that. He's also Gen X like me. So he does all this Gen X business coaching, but really right sizing your business for your life. And he played big. He sold his company for lots of money. Like he did all the big things. He's in the New York, financial circuits and has companies on the stock market, and just realized that wasn't the end point. It was a stopover. And he really helped me processing, like, I didn't do anything wrong. It's all great. It's just now a new evolution.
Yes.
It just evolves, and it's just informed, and nothing's wrong. And I don't think you can rush it, to be honest. I think you can resist it and then die and have a heart attack and die. But I don't think you can rush it. I think you just have to go through it. What's the Winston Churchill quote? When going through hell, keep going.
Yeah, keep going. I rather his other quote, golf is just a good excuse. Golf is a great way to ruin a good walk.
Also true. Accurate.
Very true. So do you think, Angela, the summation of this conversation so far really does come down to enjoy the process of where you're at and accept where you're at, but also be open to the evolution that will naturally occur anyway?
I think so. I mean, once you set a vision, you set in court, it's like a Rube Goldberg machine. So there's going to be people, there's going to be decisions you make, there's going to be promises you make, there's going to be people, and you can't just keep switching that decision every day. You can't just check in with yourself and make sure it's what you want and be honest. Like that's too much to expect of yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling the whispers, for me, it was losing my voice.
Yeah.
You know, maybe for somebody else, it's getting a bad blood test back or something. Like maybe it's medical. It doesn't have to be. Maybe it's a divorce. If you're feeling those whispers, I would say just know you got to keep living under the old vision and dedicate time to the new vision that's coming. You can't spin this on a dime. You can't fix it fast. You can't buy your way out of it. There's not a coach with the solution. There's not a therapist. There's not an ayahuasca journey with the solution. You have to live with that friggin' ambiguity. It's both and. So you go fulfill the contracts. You go serve the people that you've committed to. You show up as much as you can, and as conscious as you can be, say, I'm figuring out my new thing, and dedicate time to that, and dedicate coaches and therapists and ayahuasca journeys if you want to that.
Yeah.
Right. But it has to emerge when it's ready. And the only way to slow it down is to try and make it go faster.
Yes. Yes.
Which is really a bummer.
Sorry, I have to write that down. It's really good. Oh, Angela, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I have taken, I find it cool that I get to share this with the world, but selfishly, this is just all about me, and me being able to get through my stuff. So thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Can I do a meaning making shout out?
Yeah, please go.
Okay. So we never talked about this, but I kind of reached the same conclusion about my money-making activities and then my not money-making activities and my meaning-making activities. And so what I'm doing, it's different than this, but I run something called the Autistic Culture Podcast. It makes absolutely no money and is not intended to make any money. If anything, it costs me money because it confuses people that I'm not doing books. So let me just say, if you would like to write a book, I would love to help you write a book. That is still what I do for an actual living. But I have a crazy thing called a hobby. I know most entrepreneurs don't know this word, but it's just an activity.
Is that French, German?
What is fun and yes, I believe it's the German Hobby. So anyway, the Autistic Culture Podcast, it's autisticculturepodcast.com. And this is for neurodivergent, not just entrepreneurs, but anyone who loves someone. About 10% of people, I think, are autistic. About 3% are diagnosed. It's massively underdiagnosed, especially in women. And there's no medical advice on the show. There is no whining on the show. All we do is celebrate autistic culture contributions to society. My next episode is about Eminem, who is autistic.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And writes about it in 3 of his songs. So we do a deep dive on Eminem. We've talked about Steve Jobs. We have talked about the Star Wars franchise, which is run by and for autistic people. We've talked about Star Trek. I think this past week's episode is My Little Pony.
Oh, wow.
Autistic.
Wow.
So Pokemon, we have a Pokemon episode. So it is just a fun, light show. If you have an autistic kid, if you have an autistic cousin, if you have an autistic lover, you will learn just about the light, joyful, amazing contributions that autistic people make to the world. I consider myself one of them. So I would love for you to track that down, autisticculturepodcast.com. That's my
Oh,
shout
I
out.
love that. Yeah, absolutely. Dude, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm definitely going to be diving into that today. And also for our next discussion, we got to talk about Robin Lim, because that's something that hasn't been brought up as well. And God knows how amazing that woman is.
Goddess. Actually, one of the episodes I want to do is about autism and birth. Because that's a
Mm,
big issue for
yeah,
autistic moms. So yes, and
that'd
I've
be
talked to
awesome.
Robin about it. So I
Oh,
plan on digging in even deeper with her. So
mm,
yes.
beautiful. All right,
Well, I
Angela.
love this conversation. Thank you for inviting me and trusting me and going so deep so fast.
Of course. I love you, darling. You have an amazing, amazing day, and we'll chat soon.
Mwah. Ciao.
Well, there you have it. An amazing conversation with Angela Lauria, which I just deeply love and respect and admire. And pretty sure you'll be able to know exactly why after sticking with me through that fantastic, fantastic conversation. And what I want to leave you with right now is I want to leave you with you being able to ask yourself the question, are you doing the right things? Are you even sure on what it is that you want? And do you know how to be able to get there? Because these are the questions that you can see are extremely impactful, extremely important, extremely potent for us to be able to do. And it's something I'm doing with myself. So I hope I can help you be able to go on that journey to be able to find that discovery, which really is, how do you live your best life? And how do we do this together? And how do we be able to have more fun and love during this process? And so if you have not subscribed to the show, please, on whatever platform you're joining me on right now, be sure to subscribe. I would love for you to be able to leave a comment or review if you haven't so far, because I want to hear from you. What are you enjoying? What is it that you want more of? And effectively, just say hi, because I really appreciate it. And I love being able to sit here, do this, and to be able to share this with you. And as always, thank you so much for your time and attention. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.